Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. He's the superintendent of the 5th largest school district in the United States, plus Speaker Perkins' remarkable opening at the legislature. Ray Hagar has the rundown.
Carlos Garcia is the superintendent of the Clark County School District. Some lawmakers think the district is too large to manage well. And then our pundit panel will discuss Speaker Richard Perkins' stirring speech that started yesterday's Nevada legislature.
And coming up on the Para Pundit panel today, Daryl, Capurro, Fred Lokken, and Randi Thompson. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
If it's hot, it's here at the Pepper Mill. The Pepper Mill has over 500 of the hottest video theme slots. And with the $100,000 Winter Video Theme Slot Fest, there's no smarter time to play these winning machines. Win your share of the money with $2,000 random cash giveaways every Monday and $5,000 drawings every Friday. And new players can get up to $100 free play.
The slots that rock are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you winning?
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
Where do I want to go?
Me? Denver.
Anchorage, Alaska.
Atlanta. Vancouver.
Chicago.
We can help you get where you need to be or want to be. Reno Tahoe International Airport. Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Anywhere? Minneapolis. St. Paul.
Over 170 daily flights, non-stop service to 19 cities and connections everywhere else. Reno Tahoe International Airport, dedicated to moving you.
Jupiter.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And we are very delighted to welcome to the program Carlos Garcia. He's the Clark County School Superintendent, and he joins us by phone this morning. Welcome to the program, Carlos.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Great. I want to ask you right off the bat, legislators have been talking about potentially breaking up what is now the 5th largest school district in the United States. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we'd always be willing to entertain that thought as long as it doesn't create a racially isolated districts or isn't, create a district with the haves and the have-nots. But I think that, people talk a lot about that, but once they see what the price tag would be to break up the district, our state doesn't have the resources right now. As you know, we rank 48th in the country of how much we spend per student. So where are they going to get the additional resources to create new district offices, new facilities for the other school district, pay for superintendents, assistants, administrators? The cost of that would be in the tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. So I don't see that happening, in the very near future.
What possible benefits could come from it?
Well, I think people have this thought that you would have better local control, but the reality is, our district's broken up into 5 regions, and most of the regions work pretty independently from one another. So they have a lot of flexibility to do in fact, we did an analysis where we interviewed our parents. We sent out a survey to see if they thought the regions were working, and overwhelmingly both staff and parents gave us some really good high ratings that they thought it really was beginning to work. But, we've only had it this is the 4th year we've had it, so it takes time to really get it in place. But that's a much more cost-effective way of doing it than really trying to break up the district, because the numbers there are going to be staggering.
Carlos, if you broke up the district, wouldn't, right now lawmakers complain there's too much administration in the Clark County School District, but if you broke up the districts, wouldn't there be even more?
Oh, absolutely. That's why it's an absurd notion. In fact, recently the LCB did an analysis of the Clark County District and also Washoe, and they actually found that Clark County if they use their formula, we should have about 80 more administrators. So I know it's real easy to attack and say that, this is a bloated bureaucracy, but we don't have the funds to create a bloated bureaucracy, even if we wanted one. So we run as lean as we can be, only because of the resources. So I don't see how we would benefit anyway trying to get those resources to break up a district, not to mention the fact that being a large school district gives Clark County a lot of leverage. I mean, we went from having approximately $40 million in grants, and this last year we're almost to $150 million in grants. Why? Because of our size, we're able to leverage and be able to bring in more resources for the school district.
Carlos, your test scores, ACT, SAT, they're so much lower than the rest of the state, especially in Washoe County and Douglas County. Are you doing a good job with those kids down there? What's the problem there?
Well, dynamics have changed, okay? For instance, the average school district in the United States had a 72% increase over 10 years of non-English speaking students, 72%. In 10 years, the Clark County School District has had a 517% increase of non-English speaking students. Right now, about 1 in 5 of our students doesn't speak English. So what does that do to your test scores when you average those 1 in 5 students into that? Now, if you disaggregate it, pull those students out, our test scores end up around the 70th percentile. They really go up. But as long as you're adding 1 in 5 and under No Child Left Behind, any child who's been here 1 year now has to take the full battery of exams. Well, they don't learn enough language to be able to take a whole battery of exams in 1 year. That's like saying for any of us to go live in China and in a year to be able to be completely proficient enough to take, academic exams. I doubt that would happen. So those things have an impact. Plus, if you look at, maybe our test scores on the SAT and ACT are gone down a little bit, but look at how many more kids are taking it. We've really, just in our advanced placement courses, in 3 years, we've tripled the amount of kids taking advanced placement courses. Algebra, we went from 10% of our kids in 8th grade taking algebra to now 75% of our kids are taking algebra, with a 70% getting C or better. So we're improving those things, but they just take time.
How come Nevada high school students are graduating with a B average, and yet when they get into the university system, they're having to take remedial classes?
Because of the way they define who gets into remedial classes. They're using the SATs and ACT cut scores to get in there. And if you look across the country, in fact, look at Utah next door to us, their cut score to letting kids in remedial classes is about 5 to 8 points lower than what our cut score is here in Nevada. So, in other words, our students wouldn't qualify for a remedial class over there, but they do here. That's just an arbitrary number that's being used. And the other thing people ought to think about is that when they take a remedial class, they don't get post-tested after that remedial class. So, I mean, I keep saying to the universities, look, if your remedial class is so great, I'll tell you what we'll do. Give it to us, and we'll offer it for every senior to take in their senior year.
Well, that does make a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Of course. But the fact is that we already offer those types of courses. But once you get in with an SAT or ACT test into college, they don't give it to you again to see whether or not your score is improved.
But that does, because it's costing your university system a fortune, isn't it?
Well, it does and it doesn't. Okay, I mean, it depends what the remediation class is about. What we're doing now is, for instance, now we're required, advanced algebra to graduate from the Clark County School District. We're looking at next year adding an entire year of science more to the curriculum. We're already adding a half year of science into the middle school. So everything is gearing up. Sometimes people think, well, people get to pick whatever electives that they want. Well, under No Child Left Behind, that era is over. That's an illusion. You'll see that all our curriculum is going to be very academically oriented. It already has shifted that way, but now with the additional requirements, they're going to add science in I believe 2007 to the high school proficiency exam, and so what we're doing is gearing up for that. So we're going to add an additional year of science in high school.
Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back with more with Carlos Garcia, Superintendent of the Clark County School District, right after this timeout.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Sunbelt Communication.
For more than a decade, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has been helping the community embrace conservation as a way of life. That includes replacing more than 50 million square feet of grass with water-smart landscaping. During the worst drought on record, watering restrictions and tough landscaping codes have reduced the community's water use by billions of gallons, even as thousands of new residents were moving into Nevada. That's smart water management, and that's our promise to Nevada.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we continue our conversation with Carlos Garcia, who is the superintendent of the Clark County School District.
Carlos, you mentioned upcoming science testing for No Child Left Behind. There's a national debate going on right now about science. How should we deal with this in Nevada? Should we teach the theory of evolution, or should we teach the theory of intelligent design?
Well, I think you have to continue to teach science as science. I think the theory of design is something that's taught at home and in public education. We still...
Carlos, let me interrupt you for 1 second. Let's explain what that actually is.
Well, creationism versus evolution, that's really what it comes down to. One's more of a religious belief, and I think that every family has that responsibility at their own home as they choose to do that. The other one is, based upon science, that evolution, that man evolved from other species. And so I think that, that's something that's been debated way before any of us were born,
So you don't think that there's any place for the religious side to be even acknowledged in the school, within the school system?
Well, as a professor once told me, there'll always be prayer in school as long as there's exams.
That's very good.
So I think
very good.
We'll always do that.
There's two plans about full-day kindergarten up at the legislature. Number one is Governor Gwynn's plan to have a $100 million kiddie fund that schools could use at their own discretion. If they want to start full-day kindergarten, they could take the money out of that. And on the other hand, the Democrats have a plan to spend $72 million for full-day kindergarten over the next 2 years. What plan do you endorse, Carlos?
Well, we support both of them. The only, we're still going through the budgets ourselves. Obviously, the one with the $100 million, the governor kind of leaves it up to a district to make the determination of how to use that, and it doesn't all have to go to kindergarten. Well, obviously, our number one priority of all the 17 counties right now is to try to get full-day kindergarten for all our students. We've been working now with the INVEST plan, all the counties, 17 superintendents, 17 boards, to just all of us to be on the same page. And I think we're pretty solid, and we feel very happy that we have something in place that's going to be long range, because our biggest criticism of our legislative process is that each session that occurs in isolation, they don't connect the dots. The last session doesn't really necessarily communicate with this one or the future one. And well, that's why we created this INVEST plan that says, from now on, we need to be thinking long range. I always tell people, because there's an illusion out there that we're doing so much better economically, and we thank the legislature. They've tried to give us some more resources, but our growth is just so tremendous in this state that, when the first legislative session I attended was in 2001, and I remember, just coming in as a new superintendent from the C word from California, which already gave me a strike against me. But I came in, and I'll never forget, I said, right now Nevada ranks 40th in the country per pupil. And that people didn't like hearing that, that we were so far below the average. And if we've done so well, why is it that now we went from 40 in 2001, and today we're 48th in funding? So we keep going lower and lower. What are we waiting for, to hit rock bottom? And that does have an impact on student achievement when you have, Nevada it ranks 5th in the country of the largest class sizes in the country. Those things have an impact when you have high schools, especially down here in southern Nevada. We have high schools with over 3,000 kids and class sizes that are 35 to 45 kids.
Okay, let me bring up an issue then. Obviously, we need money for education, and yet the Committee on Education and Workforce from the U.S. House of Representatives says that the states returned more than $66 million in unused federal education funds to the Treasury just in the last year, and that includes not only Nevada, but Clark County in particular. Why are we sending money back to Washington that could be used? Because
they tie too many strings to some of that money. By the time that you're able to, we're being criticized for having too many administrators. Well, we're not going to go out and hire a bunch of people to administer some monies that take us a year to access. I mean, it's real easy to say they gave you the money, but they forget that they also created all the obstacles for you to go get the money. And also, a lot of those funds go through the state, so the state has to get them out to us. That takes so long, and they aren't allowed to carry over some of those funds. They'll say, okay, you have a year's grant, and then by the time we get the money from the feds, we have about 8 months left. By the time you plan the program that's going to be implemented and put it in place, it's already the next school year. What they ought to do is give that timeline, give you 2 years to 1 year for developing the process of how you're going to do the grant, because they take so long, and then another year for implementation. We've given those suggestions to the federal government over and over, and we end up with the same issue.
Let me ask you this then. Why didn't you support the Gibbons proposal for the Southern Nevada Lands Act to put more money into education? And now that President Bush wants to send it back to the U.S. Treasury, do you think that was a better choice?
Well, obviously it was a better choice. I think Nevada is about ready to get the real short end of the stick here. I mean, that'd be devastating for our state, for the administration to take those funds and put them elsewhere.
But how come you didn't support Jim Gibbons' proposal?
No, that's not true. We never said we didn't support his proposal. I don't know where that came from. We met with Gibbons. We were, interested in pursuing that. But it never went beyond that. But we never went public and went against that proposal.
Okay,
I don't know where that came from.
Okay, at least that's on the record.
Yeah.
Carlos, we are unfortunately out of time. We welcome you to come back to the program anytime.
Okay.
One of the triads of our program is education, and you're a very big part of it in our Silver State. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you very much.
We'll be right back on Nevada
Carlos.
Newsmakers right after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Peppermill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Peppermill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Peppermill. Where are you dining?
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we're joined on our pundit panel today by Daryl Capurro with the Nevada Motor Transport Association. He's the managing director. And Randi Thompson, who's a public relations consultant. And Fred Lokken, who is a professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College. Welcome to all of you.
Sam, what bothers me about this debate about education, the whole debate is centered on English language learners, kids that don't want to be in school, to bring them up to the average, to make them have annual yearly progress. What's forgotten all this is our best and brightest students. The gifted and talented students are the ones that really get left behind. And the United States is going to suffer 10, 20, 30 years down the road because we are not producing the engineers, the mathematicians, the really smart people you need to stay on top of the world issues.
Well, as the executive director of Nevada Gifted and Talented, I think I have my new spokesperson. Thank you, Ray. No, also as the education reporter for the Gazette, you've seen it. You've talked to Mike Diamond, who has an autistic daughter and a gifted and talented son. And his autistic daughter gets on average 2 hours a week of work, while his son gets 45 minutes. So we're leaving our best and brightest behind, and No Child Left Behind is, while it's been helping out the lower end, we're really hurting our best and brightest students, and we really need to focus at the state level on how we can improve our gifted and talented education.
Well, it shouldn't be surprising to us, though, because you know, when we have either state or federal government, they always work to the lowest common denominator. So clearly what happens is the best and brightest don't get the attention that they should. And you're exactly right. I think if we expect to compete in the world in the future, we should be providing more additional and more challenging classes for those people.
Fred, do you want to?
And it's become the bane of public education everywhere. I mean, it's the trap that all public education has fallen into, which is why so many are growingly frustrated with it, and why I think you see, at least on the Republican side, the clamor for vouchers. Because in essence, why do you want to reward a bureaucracy that does go to the lowest common denominator?
Okay, on the other hand, isn't the cream always going to rise to the top anyway?
No.
Not if they flunk out of school.
No, because right now, if you're not challenged in school, you're going to become a behavior problem. Yeah. And let me tell you this, that can lead to a lot of bad things for that individual down the road. You just look at the Nevada State Pen, it's loaded with really smart guys that have not gotten their education.
Well, and I think the role of Truckee Meadows and other local schools can be more involved with our high schools, and I'd like to see how Fred and Washoe County can really work together on providing programs that will then challenge our local kids. And there's that opportunity there, and that's where the state legislature can play a key role.
Let's change the topic, because I want to get to Speaker Perkins' speech on the floor yesterday. And it was quite a remarkable speech. And I'll just read a couple of paragraphs, and then we'll talk about some of the things he said. One of them was, we, all of us, myself included, allowed ourselves to get sucked into behavior, this is about the last session, that not only delayed action, it demeaned the institution we serve. Minority Leader Hetrick and I have served together for more than a decade. In 2003, we abandoned that working relationship in favor of partisan bickering. Mr. Hetrick, we need to work together, and I pledge to do my part. Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Marvel were men I had looked up to since my arrival in the Assembly in 2003. I foolishly set aside that respect. Have you ever heard anything like this at the legislature?
Well,
I'm glad he said it.
Quite frankly, I guess the only surprise I have is that he actually said that, because that's exactly what happened last session, is there was a lack of civility between people, and that's why you had a lot of the old timers saying, you know, none of this would have happened when Joe Dini was the Speaker of the House, because they did allow partisan politics to interfere with their better judgment at times.
But that's going to happen again in this session.
Yeah.
It's all about partisan politics.
Well, that was a governor's speech there, not a conciliatory
Well,
speech.
I don't see it changing either. Perkins is still a high partisan, and especially if he's running for governor now. And in Dina
And this was the opening shot.
Yes, well, Dina Titus's comment, I'm not going to give the speech, that the gubernatorial speech that was happening down the hall. So the partisan politics is at it again, and so are the personal agendas.
And it's a dime late and dollar short. I mean, in essence, 2003, and we're making apologies in 2005,
Yeah.
it rings a little too hollow, and I join with you. I'm very much afraid of what this session may turn out to be in terms of a partisan session.
Okay, let's hit a couple of the issues here. Ray, Speaker Perkins says we need to get the minimum wage raised right now. We don't need to wait for it to be voted on.
Well, I think in a democracy, don't we need a vote before we can do something like that?
Well, no, he says a vote of the legislature rather than the vote of the people.
Well, that's not going to happen right away. I think there's a lot of opposition to raising the minimum wage. I'd like to hear what Mr. Hetrick has to say about that. Senator Raggio, I don't know if they would be in the same boat as Speaker Perkins.
I'd like to hear what the business community has to say about it. I mean, you can raise rates, but
I don't
not if
think-
you're going to close business.
I clearly believe it's not going to happen. It might get through one house, but I don't think it's going to get through the legislative process. And it'll go on the ballot next time and probably pass again. There are good reasons why it shouldn't, but there are also good reasons why it should. So we're not taking a position on it at the present time, but I don't think it's going to survive the legislative process.
Okay, what about the solution to the property tax problem of taking out the first $50,000 of assessed value?
Well, Sam, the problem with that is I think Mr. Hetrick pointed out later, you get into the counties like Esmeralda, Lander,
it's brutal on them.
and that would kill them, and that it's very uneven because a $150,000 house in Esmeralda is a palace. You can't even buy a $150,000 house in Washoe County or in Clark County, so it doesn't work, I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't
Randy,
work.
10 seconds, and Fred, 10 seconds.
Well, I actually lobbied this in '99 to find some sort of reasonable cap, and we've got to look at how we can cap those that are affected in the worst way, in the sense of the people that are forced out of their homes. That's the problem here. Not benefiting the rich, protecting those that want to stay in the home that they want to die in.
Okay, Fred, the last couple of words.
Number one issue for the legislature. Get
Okay,
it done.
and we're out of
There's
time.
going to be a lot of bickering over that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Siegfried and Roy presents Daryl Romeo.
There's magic in his voice, and there's music in his magic.
Brilliant young talent like this is very rare.
The music of the night. I'm Darren Romeo.
Thank you. Unbelievable. Wow. Fantastic.
Dinner and show package from $27.95. Call the Eldorado at 786-5700.
It's the next best thing to having your own wine cellar. Come to the Bonanza Casino for a first and fine dining, reasonably priced wines. When you dine at Cactus Creek Southwestern Steakhouse, you can also enjoy a fine bottle of wine at just about the same price you'd pay at the Vineyard, Silver Oak, Robert Mondavi, Rombauer, Cakebread, Jordan, and Duckhorn, just to name a few. And at the lowest prices of any restaurant or casino in Northern Nevada. And remember, all fine wines are not in wine cellars. They're in the Cactus Creek at the Bonanza Casino, where locals come to play.
Tomorrow we have a show that everybody, young or old, who's going to retire is going to want to watch, right?
Well, Sam, we're going to talk about the national debate on Social Security.
We'll see you then.
Thank you.